cursed by the old gods of Bethany. We are four souls destined to review the 1001
movies,
albums,
songs,
and TV shows you must consume before you die. Until then, we are the Immortals. And this is episode 170.
Yay!
We did it, guys.
Hell
That's a good round number.
Buck 70 in about, 30 to 40 weeks? Anywhere from 6 to 12 months from now, we'll get into the 200s.
Yeah, that'll be
Be a
crazy.
fifth of the way done.
Crazy.
holy shit!
Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We'll, of course, jumping the gun a lot, because we're only at 170 today. And we are, by the way, the Immortals. Every week we review one of the 1001 movies, albums, songs, and TV shows one must consume before they die. I'm Austin.
I'm Sarah.
I'm the right one that you let in.
Uh-oh.
And I'm Pedro.
And this week we're covering the 968th entries in all these lists. And you probably guess what the movie is, from the episode title.
Is it Let Me In?
Nope.
Damn.
They're the following things.
We watched Let the Right One In.
The album is Illinois by Sufjan Stevens.
The song is Supermassive Black Hole by Muse.
The TV show is Hinterland. And we had a bonus episode because this is, every 10 episodes we have one of our co-hosts pick a bonus review, something that should have been on the list, but isn't, that we're going to give a full segment review to.
Full segment.
And this is Pedro's pick. He has said it on mic, I believe, 4 of the past 10 episodes.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you keep saying it on mic.
I think I've said it more than
Well,
four.
Pedro came to the realization that this is what he would pick on mic, because
Yeah.
we were talking about something
We
else.
were talking about this on episode 160.
I believe so.
Because of various reasons that came up. I believe they all had to do with Dennis Hopper and Keanu Reeves, because we were in the thick of John Wick season. And we
John Wick season. A whole,
I think
a whole
that was,
season of our lives.
that was, and I think that was
Sure.
the episode we did, Blue Velvet. So,
And The Mummy.
Yeah, that's right.
Which
The
is my
Mummy,
pick.
that was,
Babe.
yes. We were talking
the
about,
combination of 90s action plus Dennis Hopper made you realize we have to.
and
we
Keanu
have
Reeves.
to. We have
did.
to. Yeah.
And now we have.
We have.
And what is that movie?
The movie is Speed.
Before we get into all of that, anything else anyone wants to talk about? Anything you've seen the past week, heard?
Well, I would just say that, the Pokemon thing works about 83% of the time because there are 830 Pokemon, but we are beyond 830 because this is
My
number
God.
968.
Ooh.
But the 170th Pokemon is Chinchu, which is which is like a weird, stupid, like electric fish that isn't nearly as cool as it should be. That's all I've got to say about that.
How does that even, swim in the water? It's just, just kill everything around it? Because it's just shocking the
Well,
water.
no, it's got
while
little
it's-
stalks like a
like
a
an
lampfish,
anglerfish?
like an anglerfish,
Okay.
yeah. But it's got 2 of them, and then it grows into something that looks a little bit more like a derpy anglerfish. But they're pretty dumb.
The 968th Criterion film is a movie I've not seen before. Japon, I think is how you say it.
Is it in French? And did you
Is
pronounce
it
it weird?
Japan in French?
It is,
Japon?
I believe it's a Mexican film? Mexican, yes.
Also, how you say Japan in?
Yeah,
Japon.
I got it right.
I mean, in our defense,
You
usually don't, and you were very hesitant.
Yeah.
was it the accent?
I got it right.
Okay.
I nailed this. Yeah, I haven't seen it. It reminds me of an Iranian film I've seen, it looks like, 'cause it's about a man who travels to Mexico City from Mexico City to isolated village to commit suicide.
Ah,
So,
Interesting.
yeah,
Jeez.
has a good cover,
sounds
as
really
all
unpleasant.
Criterion covers typically are.
Cool.
But yeah, I haven't seen it. That's it.
What did I
Have
watch
you seen
this week?
anything?
Oh, what have I been watching? A bunch of stuff, right?
I watched Rain.
Rain.
My girlfriend's been getting into Rain.
What, like the concept?
That's a Netflix show. Oh, is that like the rain kills people, or what is it?
It basically follows Mary Queen of Scots.
Oh,
Oh,
Rain,
and-
R-E-I.
Yes.
Oh, I was like,
okay.
what?
Rain.
Speaking of which, by the way, the English language is stupid. How is R-E-I-G-N pronounced rain?
Because it's the Reagan.
Reagan.
It's a really silly show. I haven't been super keeping up with it, but I've seen a lot since she's been watching it, and it's silly. It's weird. most of that shit hasn't happened in history. It has weird modern songs thrown into it in this weird period piece that looks all, it's silly, bordering stupid, not gonna lie.
I've mostly been consuming metamedia because I've mostly been reading Emily Nussbaum's new book, I Like to Watch, which is a collection of her criticism. Man, she's good. Like, it's one of those things, like I've said many times, like, it's like, oh my gosh, this book is so good. Oh yeah, well, she did win a Pulitzer. It's like, funny story, she's really good. But she has a new essay. Most of them are essays from, like, the last, like, the oldest one's from, like, 2015, about, like, pretty much every great show of the past, 5 or 6 years, plus more. She's got a Norman Lear essay, like, and those are all, like, previously published in the New Yorker. But the, like, centerpiece that she wrote for this book alone is her, like, meditation on Me Too, which is called Confessions of a Human Shield, which is just, like, very, very, very good and worth buying the book for. And everyone should read this book, and it's great, and I'm obsessed with it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's probably one of the best books I've read this year. It's wonderful.
I have really been enjoying the different memes that people have been making out of the salmon tube. You know what I'm talking about?
I do not.
No, you sent me one. I forgot to click on it, honestly.
Okay, so do you know what the salmon tube is?
No.
So, somewhere where there are fucking salmon,
Okay.
I don't know, we have blocked their migration path because of, like, a dam, or we fucked some shit up with the earth, and now the salmon can't migrate to where they need to go.
Sure.
So, we have created an enormous, like, the world's longest tube, where, like, there's this video of these fishermen just, like, they grab a salmon and they shove it up the tube, and it goes over, like, a mountain.
What?
And it follows the salmon through the tube until it flies out the other side. And the video I sent Austin was this, but it was set to that part of Shallow from A Star Is Born where Lady Gaga's like, oh!
That's really important
And she
content.
does that whole huge vocal run. And then the salmon, like, fucking enters the river again when she's like, I'm off the deep end, watching the diamond. It's so fucking funny.
This seems like really important content that I will be investigating very soon.
There are lots of really good, like, memes about it, I think, from, like, the TikTokers, as they're called. And it's really good. That's the thing that's brought me a lot of joy this week.
Great. You know what, JC? I'm really happy for you.
See, Sarah's in her 30s, so when she hears the word TikTokers, it just is white noise to her.
I'm also in my
TikTokers.
30s.
What?
Yeah.
TikTokers.
You just stopped just saying it. Tell me what it is.
See, I'm in my 20s. I know all about this.
I don't like this.
People who use the platform TikTok.
What?
It's like Vine.
Okay.
I don't get it, actually.
It's like sing-along Vine.
R.I.P. Vine.
What?
Except it's not actually sing along because you can just do whatever. You can just make videos on it now. So it's like 12-second Vine. Have none of you heard of TikTok?
I
No.
have.
It's a song.
Yeah, I know the Kesha song.
It's a great
Yeah,
song.
so TikTok
Great.
is
Yes.
Yeah,
a
it's actually
12-second
pretty good. Don't
video
fight me on this.
platform, which has spawned like so many weird little subculture memes. There are lots of really fucking funny TikTok videos which have like the essence of like Vines, and then people also like there's a whole like subculture of people who do TikTok who are like recently divorced and they're like doing something dramatic with like their wedding ring or something like that.
What the hell?
Wow.
Like there's a or like there's one there's like a subculture of TikTok people who are like they're like dominant, like capital D dominant cis dudes who are like lip syncing and like whipping things, and it's terrible. Don't go to that corner.
What are you talking about?
And
What
then
are you
there
talking
are just
about?
other videos. Two of my roommates are super into them, and so I get like this sort of constant stream of TikTok content. Like there's this really good one where this girl tries kombucha for the first time. I'll send you some. I'll put some in the WhatsApp.
You know, I
And-
mean, I guess I'm excited about that. I
It's
was
a-
more
I-
excited about this brand new interesting thing to look at until you started talking about it. Now I don't know
I mean,
how I
just-
feel.
like anything on the internet, there are things that that never should have been made, where we flew too close to the sun and our wax wings are melting and we're falling into the ocean and we should die, but somehow we're still here.
Yeah.
But there's some really, really funny shit, and one of those things is the salmon tube. And it's set to there's that part of Shallow by Lady Gaga.
I can't think of anything else that could be a better transition into the movie Speed.
Speed.
I guess, yeah.
Segment. Pedro, what did we watch?
We watched Speed.
All right, pop quiz. Airport. Gunman with one hostage. He's using her for cover. He's almost to a plane. You're 100 feet away.
What do you think? Shoot the hostage.
What?
Go for the good wound and he can't get to the plane with her. Clear shot.
You're deeply nuts, you know that?
For L.A. cop Jack Traven.
Tell me again, Harry, why did I take this job?
Come on, 30 more years of this, you get a tiny pension and a cheap gold watch.
Cool.
The game began.
Very exciting, Jack. Some close calls, huh?
When someone put the city of Los Angeles to the ultimate test.
Pop quiz, hotshot. There's a bomb on a bus. Once the bus goes 50 miles an hour, the bomb is armed. If it drops below 50, it blows up. What do you do? What do you do?
Speed is a 1994 action film, thriller, maybe?
No, yeah, it's an action movie.
It's an action thriller.
It's a action thriller. Yes, both. Haha.
Yeah, mostly an action.
Mostly
I'd say
action.
A thriller requires more mystery than Speed.
Oh, there's some
Yeah,
mystery.
There's not a lot of mystery.
There's a lot of mystery.
Zero mystery.
The villain literally calls up the hero and tells him exactly what's going on.
Well,
exactly
yeah.
what he has to do.
But it's littered with pop quizzes, so there's mysteries everywhere. So this movie follows LAPD generic officer, what's his face, played by Keanu Reeves. Jack, I think his name is.
And his last name is really generic and kind of not a name, like Travers
Oh,
or
let's
Trainer,
find it here.
Raven.
Traven.
Jack
Like,
Traven.
that's not a name.
Yeah,
well,
it is.
he is an LAPD SWAT officer.
SWAT.
Jack Traven, and his partner Harry Temple, played by Jeff Daniels.
Mm-hmm.
They are. Well, it opens up.
Atticus Finch himself.
Mr. Newsroom.
Yes. His name is Harry in Dumber and Dumber too, isn't it?
It is, which came out same year.
Anyway, things happen.
Jesus Christ.
Bombs are placed. Some of them explode. Every bomb explodes. Actually, there isn't a single bomb
That's true. No one
except
defuses a bomb.
except for the
Point.
very last one in the film.
That's true.
That's the only bomb that does not explode.
That's true. And weird.
There's a very smart and talented villain, Dennis Hopper.
This movie has the easiest one-sentence summary. You've not gotten to it yet.
Oh,
See?
okay.
Not
So basically,
easy, is it?
well, because there's a whole half-hour opener that I forgot when the credits came on for this movie. I was like, why is there an elevator going down? I don't remember there being a single elevator in this movie. Oh yeah, the first half hour. And then it immediately turns into, there's a bomb on a bus. The bus cannot go below 50 miles an hour, otherwise the bomb explodes.
There we go. That's what I was looking for.
That's
Well,
what most of the movie's about.
Once it goes above 50 miles an hour,
It gets
the bomb is
armed.
armed. And then if it goes below,
It
he
blows up.
almost gets it before it goes above 50.
That is true.
It fails. This is the
Can I
best
say
movie ever.
something quickly that's really important?
Yes.
This movie rolls.
This movie
Yeah.
you know what? This movie fucks. There are movies fuck and there are movies that don't fuck. This movie fucks.
It's true.
It's a fucking good movie.
I forgot how much I liked this movie until Austin brought up that I don't think you had seen. The last time I had seen this movie was with you, 10 years ago.
I remember we watched it together in Indiana.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen the movie many, many times.
I watched
I
it
had
very
seen it many
late in
times.
life. I saw Speed for the first time maybe 5 years ago.
Can I tell you,
Got
my
it.
mom showed me Speed when I was in high school. We watched it together because she fucking loves this movie.
Because it's great.
My mom showed me Speed, I think, when I was in junior high. I think it was one of my first R-rated films because she wanted to show her kids Speed. And she loves action movies and forgot it was R. So when they say fuck a lot in the beginning, I think I remember
Oh, fuck me. And then the character.
I think
gosh.
I think my mom paused the film, I can't remember this, and said if you all don't repeat this word, we can watch the rest of the film. And she's like, gets
Oh
the
my
box
God.
from like Blockbuster, make sure it's
Right.
just language.
That's literally so beautiful.
That is-
My mom was like, this film has such a good love story.
That is a strange. That's a very strange praise of Speed.
My mom really likes Keanu Reeves.
I mean,
Not to put my mom on blast.
hey, there's
No,
nothing wrong with like.
I mean,
Keanu Reeves is
This
great.
podcast.
And he was a baby. He was so
He
tiny
looks
and
He's
young.
so good in this movie, though.
He does.
I was
Right?
like, hello.
He does. He looks very attractive. He hasn't learned to act yet.
No, he's
No,
not.
he hasn't.
So I'm a Keanu Reeves defender for his acting. This is not one of his good ones, for
No,
sure.
I think that Keanu Reeves has now learned to act. I think there's a pretty obvious pre and
I
post.
think he's good in Point Break, and around this time, maybe beforehand.
This is not Point Break quality, sir.
Well, Point Break's great.
No, Point Break is. I'm saying his
Yeah.
acting.
Oh yeah, it's lower. But I think
Point
the
Break
year
is
before,
fantastic.
Yeah.
It's probably on
Yeah.
the list.
it might be on the list.
If it's
Can
not, I know what
can
we're
I say
doing.
something? I have one tiny
What?
piece of defense for him in this movie.
Oh, I love him.
Is when he is on the bus, and every time he has to be like nice, like he's nice to Sandra Bullock, and he's like really like encouraging to the people on the bus. He's just very genuine. Like
Yeah, he
I
is.
feel like I very much believe that he has like this really like nice sincerity about
Well,
him in those moments that I think is like one of the main reasons I like the
I'm
movie.
going to say something that I don't often say. He's a good cop who does good
Oh,
in this movie.
it's a fictional movie.
She
so I
said
think it's
that
okay.
during the movie, and she was embarrassed then she's saying it. And I just kind of realized Sarah's barometer for what a good cop needs to be is you have to do everything that Keanu Reeves did in Speed. And you get two thumbs up barely.
I'm sorry. My barometer for that is if you are a LAPD officer in 1994, that is
Oh my gosh.
definitely the standard.
Yeah.
Wait, that reminds
Oh,
So we looked this up because we're trying to figure out, like, okay, 94. You want to say it?
Yeah, I do. Okay, this is wild. So I'm watching this movie, right? As we've now explained the premise, for those of you who have not seen Speed, go watch Speed. It's wild, and it's worth watching without, not that there's spoilers necessarily, because again, it's like all said at the beginning, but like, go watch it. It's got good action beats. But there's all of these aerial shots of the Los Angeles freeway with this bus that can't slow down going like 50 miles an hour. And I immediately looked at this and I was like, is this inspired by the O.J. Simpson's Bronco chase?
That's
or whatever?
what Darren said.
No. Weirdest shit ever. This movie premiered days before the O.J. Simpson Bronco chase.
Really?
7 days
So
before.
there are people, like, the second weekend of Speed being out, when it's a blockbuster hit, is the weekend
wow.
of the Bronco chase. So, like, there are likely thousands of people in the world who watched Speed, then went home to their houses, turned on the news, and saw the Bronco chase. How
It's literally
weird
amazing.
is that?
That is
Like,
weird.
How weird is that?
Well, because in the beginning of the movie, once we transition from elevator to bus.
Well, and the
just
elevator scene is
between-
basically like a long sequence, which is actually a lot of fun too, to set
good
up
one.
who the villain is.
Yes.
And
What he can do, what he's capable of.
He has a bomb heist elevator plan. You get the guy from Mad Men. It's in the elevator.
Yep.
who's also been in Mulholland Drive and Blue Velvet, which we've watched for this.
Who,
Was
who's
he
the
was
guy?
in Blue
Who's the
Velvet.
guy?
Oh, he's not.
He's in Lost.
He's in Lost. He's in Mulholland Drive. He's in Mad Men. He only plays assholes.
Yes.
Have you watched all of Mad Men?
Yes.
He is.
Nuts is better than nuts.
He's the dickwad singer in Mad
Comedian.
Men. The comedian. Jimmy something.
Jimmy something, his
I don't
wife
remember.
has an affair with Don for
Yeah,
a
his
bit.
wife is Bobby.
Oh,
yeah.
he's got eyebrows.
Yeah.
The guy with the eyebrows, yeah.
Yeah,
Benton,
yeah,
Bobby
yeah.
Benton.
I just texted the image to JC.
Yes, that guy. Anyway, he's there. Then
Yeah.
then Keanu Reeves rooms the people from the elevator with a fucking crane, because
Mhm.
Keanu Reeves in
Is
this
the
movie
best.
is ridiculous.
I love that there was just like, of course, like on the top of the elevator, just like one of those little loops that like would be on top of a Christmas ornament. Like it was just perfectly there for him to put the
That's
crane
what
hook through.
Darren said as well.
I mean, what you gonna do?
And I made it very clear that it's the safety hook. All elevators have a safety hook.
That sounds like something you made up.
But all elevators have a safety hook, guys.
See, this is the part when I'm confused about reality. If Pedro loves the film too much, that is truthful to reality. I don't know how elevators have safety precautions. They definitely do. But Pedro's not blinking right now, and I'm worried that there's a hook.
Well, they actually were fairly accurate in this film. There are the wires, there are the backup wires, and there are the brakes. All three of those are very extant in elevators.
They also blew up a real plane.
They did? I didn't know that.
What?
I mean, how do you
Yeah, they did it in
I
like
guess that's
one
true.
take.
Yeah,
They
how do you
fucking
do it
blew
in
up a
like
plane.
fucking 1994? They jump a real bus too, which is like hilarious.
Yeah,
This
but
movie fucks.
They don't really jump the full 50 feet, but there is a great interview with one of the extras who were like one of the bus passengers. They were on the podcast. I was there too, which is a fun thing where you like people who are like in iconic scenes who are like, bit players that day.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, yeah, there was the stunt we had to do like 5 times where like the bus does go in the air. It was more like 3 feet, not 50 feet. But so when you have shots of us all in the bus, like going up a little bit and screaming, that's not acting.
Well, it's funny too because like, there's a camera in the bus, and like the camera, like shaky cam, like falls to the ground, which is very dramatic. But I was also like, oh yeah, that's what happens when you put a cameraman in a bus and then jump it and then land it on something and it falls down.
Okay,
impressive.
so here's another
Yeah,
piece
what's different about
of
this movie?
something that's important for reality is that I think Dennis Hopper always picks up the phone in his right hand and holds it to his left ear because he does it again.
because he's missing a finger, and it's cheaper to have him do that than to show the hand that's missing a finger in the story.
Is that why?
No.
He's missing one of his fingers in
Is
the
that
story.
Is that real?
And we never see that hand.
Nope.
Oh.
You see the hand briefly in the other, because I'm looking at it, because I'm obsessed with his weird, because he does it the whole movie, and it's bizarre. And I think
That's
like
exactly what we said in Blue Velvet, though.
yeah,
Oh.
his hand looked a little bit burned in the elevator. So I kept avoid using that hand. So there was a previous like bomb accident, but he always does that. He could use he could use his right ear. You can go right hand, right ear, but no,
You can't do that.
right hand, left ear.
Right hand, left
It's
ear.
such a weird, and I will say, like, Dennis Hopper is one of the things, like, I am a full-on defender of this movie. I think it is a perfectly constructed action movie. In that, like, I don't claim it's somehow revolutionary. I don't think it teaches us anything about ourselves. But, like, in terms of, like, in the way that, like, a great mystery novel has a clockwork pattern that is exciting, this has all, like, sets up its set pieces as an action movie and executes all of them flawlessly. And one of them is, Dennis Hopper's a huge part of that. Like, he is such a fun villain. He, like, it's such a fun thing to have, like, a mustache twirly villain, not that he has a mustache, but whatever, who is going to just, like, tell your main character exactly what's going on and say, like, this is the deal, you can't stop it. It's like, you don't, like, you know exactly what the stakes are the whole time, which means that they can do, like, these really specific kind of dramatic scenes, like Keanu Reeves needing to, of, like, all of the steps that are going to need to be necessary for Keanu Reeves to pull this off. Like, he has to tell the bus driver that this is happening without the bus driver slowing down the bus. And there's a whole, like, maybe, like, 5 or 7 minute sequence of him first, like, figuring out how to tell the bus driver because the bus driver can't hear him. He's on the fucking LA Expressway. And then finally figuring it out by, like, waving a piece of paper and then gets stuck to the windshield. And then realizing that he needs to tell the bus driver not to slow down when told there's a bomb on the bus, which is any logical person's reaction. Like, it's those things that are, and, like, all of the human reactions on the bus, I think this is, like, the one place where the movie is actually, like, genuinely smart. I think, like, the population of people on the bus is a really sort of interesting mix of people.
Yep.
There's some stereotypes flowing around, but for the most part, I think they respond definitely a lot better than if I was just writing, like, how would people on a bus respond to being told there's a bomb on the bus? They do a really good job of being like, oh, like, people respond a whole shit ton of ways. Like, there's, like, people who freak out. There's the guy who pulls a gun on the cop. There's Sandra Bullock, who is, like, the person you need in a crisis. And those people are real. And she feels very genuine of, like, this is, like, there are people who save the day. And Sandra Bullock in this movie is a very believable version of that person.
For sure.
She's so good.
She's so
She's
good.
fucking great in this movie.
And then there's Cameron from Ferris Bueller.
Oh my
Hey.
Just
Can you
hilarious.
tell I'm a tourist?
He's taking pictures of like the cops trying to get people off a bus.
But like in today's age of smartphone, we would all be doing that the whole time.
Well, and Austin pointed out early on, he goes, this is one of the few 90s action movies that doesn't fall apart if cell phones exist. Like, who the hell cares?
I don't know. People will be like live. Okay, so like people would like live streaming that shit.
Well, but
all the
nothing
time.
that
But they
Keanu
would be
Reeves
doing the same
has
thing.
to do changes if cell phones exist.
Well, you'd have to
Nothing
tell
becomes
everyone to
easier.
shut their cell phone off, for example, because otherwise Dennis could just hop onto whatever Twitter
right,
feed
sure.
and be like-
But essentially, it's what he already was doing because he was using the news feed of what was going on. But really, he
Yeah,
was secretly watching the bus anyway.
Mhm.
That's the one part of that like you kind of forget the simplicity of the '90s, where like nowadays we just assume the bad guy would be bugging the bus.
Right.
They learn it like an hour in.
Because
Yeah.
because like in 1994, it's probably a pretty new thing for every Los Angeles bus to have a camera on it, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and it wasn't even like the bus camera. It was a camera that was like hidden
Exactly.
behind a mirror. It wasn't even
right.
Like,
I mean, and I mean, I do think like the movie does know what city it's set in and does know what the LAPD is. Like, that's a like spying. That's like a 90s tough on crime, like surveillance camera
Sure.
for bus crime. That's an LAPD 90. Like that's like it's not random that in LA in 1994 there is
Sure.
suddenly a surveillance camera on a bus that people don't think about there being there, right? Like it's 1994 in LA.
Did you know that Joss Whedon helped write this? And
Makes
this was
sense.
an idea that came from Akira Kurosawa?
What?
Okay, so Joss Whedon at this time, he was.
He wrote most of the dialogue.
This makes a lot of
That
sense.
makes a lot of sense actually because the
Right.
dialogue in this movie is really good. And
But
that's
Graham
what
Yost
Joss
is
Whedon's
also
good at.
really good at dialogue.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But now Joss Whedon this time, he did script punch-ups.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly like 10 days before production started. We brought in Joss, and he wrote most of the dialogue, and also was credited with rewriting all of Jack's stuff once they cast Keanu.
Mm.
So like he rewrote it for Keanu, kind of thing.
Which is interesting, though, that because like he's not credited,
Uncredited. Yeah.
which means there's still like according to WGA stuff, he didn't get enough percentage of the script being his stuff
Right.
to previous.
Mhm.
WGA's weird
Yep.
stuff, but
I feel
Or
like
he did
that
it
line at
as
the end
notes
where
being
Keanu
like-
Reeves is like, "Yeah, but I'm taller." That feels like a Joss Whedon line.
Yeah.
It's like dumb enough.
No, it's the best.
so wait, how is this Kurosawa though?
They're just saying
Oh
that
my
it was
God.
one of his ideas, basically. Let me see.
This was not a
Scroll
original.
up.
Kurosawa.
The film was based on an idea by Kurosawa.
I don't know if I believe
That's
that.
all it says.
I mean, like that's like saying like I don't know. That doesn't. That's
Ellie
not-
mistakenly believed that the train's situation was due to a bomb on board.
I
Hold
get
on.
the idea that Kurosawa has a notebook of ideas. One is, a man becomes sick and questions whether or not his life has
Never
meaning.
mind.
King Lear, but badass. Also, there's a bomb on the bus, and you have to go over 50
So
miles an hour.
let me read the whole paragraph, or at least the beginning.
Were you just telling us things without having read the whole paragraph?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Are you
so
on-
Graham Yost told his father, who was Canadian TV host Elwie
What
Yost,
website is this?
Wikipedia,
God damn.
about a movie called Runaway Train starring John Voight about a train that speeds out of control, film based off of an idea by Kurosawa. He mistakenly believed the train situation was due to a bomb on board, and such a theme wasn't that fact used in a 1975 film, Bullet Train. After seeing the Voight film, he decided it would have been better if there was a bomb on board with a bus being forced to travel 20 miles an hour to prevent the actual explosion.
So, Graham Yost misremembered a movie that was vaguely based on a Kurosawa plot, and that's how Speed happened.
Yes.
Cool. I'm glad we sorted that out.
Okay, yeah, Runaway Train, which I'm now looking up.
There are, well,
The premise of this is two escaped convicts and a female railway worker find themselves trapped on a train with no brakes and nobody driving. And this apparently is
But
based
Graham-
on a screenplay by Kurosawa.
But Graham Yost, for some reason, remembered that movie involved there being a bomb on a train, and then
Yep.
decided to make it about a bus. But there was never a movie about a bomb on a train.
There was a
in the first
movie
place.
about a bomb on a train.
Oh.
Different movie, though.
Oh, okay, so he, conflated two movies.
Possibly.
This seems like a dumber version of Unstoppable, which is also a very dumb movie.
Well, and that's the thing, right? I mean, there's Speed, leads to all of the various horrible, universally, I believe, horrible spin-offs of It's Speed, but, blank.
Including Speed 2.
Cruise Control. Same director.
Which I have not seen.
Sean Devon.
This was their first film.
Yeah.
Mega hit.
His second film, Twister. Also a huge hit.
Why the hell did he make Speed 2?
Third film. Bombed.
Money.
Then he did The Haunting in 99. Bigger bomb.
Oh, yeah.
Then he did Tomb Raider 2. Also a really big bomb. He's only made 5 films. 2 of them are 90s lowercase C classics.
Hey.
Uppercase.
I'm not going to put Twister in uppercase
H.
C classic.
Twister's a fucking classic. Austin.
Yeah, actually, Twister
Don't
is a
beat
classic.
this.
You can't choose what becomes a classic or not based off of its.
We're fucking from the Midwest. That shit.
No, Speed is
haunted
classic
me.
status. Twister is classic status.
Twister is a fucking scary movie.
It is.
Is it?
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes. When her dad gets fucking torn off into the tornado, that didn't haunt you for the rest of your life?
No?
No, just me.
When those guys' car gets sucked into a tornado and explodes, or that poor cow is seen flying around, don't you feel bad for the cow? Or just tornadoes in general? Didn't this movie make you, like, freaked out about tornadoes?
I enjoyed watching it. That was fun.
Oh, you monster.
That part where, like, the outdoor movie screen that's playing The Shining gets torn apart by a tornado.
I've seen Twister.
Shit's great.
Twister's good.
I saw Twister last year.
Twister's
outside
classic.
of the park.
Yeah, but did Twister see you?
No.
Philip Seymour Hoffman's in that shit.
He is.
Oh, yeah.
It's art.
Both Twister and Speed have like a great ensemble cast. I mean, we've talked about Alan Ruck and whatnot. I forgot that the police captain is Olivia Pope's dad from Scandal.
He's like a baby in this movie.
I know. But Jeff Daniels is great in this. That was good.
River Phoenix died while they were shooting this. And he was Reeves' really close friend. So they actually made sure to, like, not give him hard scenes to shoot and stuff while he was, like, grieving.
Yeah.
It was a lot. Like, he was, like, very quiet and stuff on
Mistreat
scene.
Keanu well.
Right?
What are the quiet filming days of this movie?
That's a good question.
The
You're
scenes where
only
he's just,
under-
like, just looking out and
Okay,
Thousand
that was literally a loop in the film.
might have been a loop in the film. I don't know.
And any final thoughts on Speed? What makes this such a iconic action movie?
I think it's important to talk about the Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock chemistry.
Which is wonderful.
It's
Yes.
so good. It's like, I feel like there's like some different things when I was watching the movie, just like some little things that happen where I feel like if we tried to make this now, there'd be some stupid shit that would happen.
Yes, I agree.
I don't think Sandra Bullock like person would ever be cast in this role now. Like,
Sure.
ever.
Agreed.
I think that she's obviously beautiful, but she is not like, she looks like a beautiful normal person.
Yes, that's Sandra Bullock's like
Yeah, that's her thing.
yeah.
And there's like, I don't know, there's just like the way that I feel like they would like really hone in and make the banter like very like deprecating. I don't know, like
Yeah.
they're just really like nice. Like
Yeah.
it's a very romantic little movie, I think.
Keanu Reeves in the movie, he doesn't do a lot of what you typically think of, like the big action moments. Like there's a part when like the people on the bus are like freaking out,
Yeah.
and he like stands up and goes back and like tells the guy like, "Hey," and like sits him back down. At that point, any other action movie would have him standing in front of the group making a speech about be okay, and he doesn't because he can't really, and so he kind of goes back to Sandra Bullock, and like the lack of speech is very noticeable and it's really cool. So like when there are about to like, I think during the jump. Or there's some big, I think during the jump, everyone's kind of bracing. He holds on to her. Like,
Yeah.
he like,
That part's
and it's like,
so
it's an
nice.
amazing moment of a guy who like doesn't like do the big like badass lines or anything like that, but like he quietly does like
Hold on to your
protect her.
butts.
Yeah, none of that. He has no Schwarzenegger lines, no like one-liners. It's just yeah.
Yeah, but I'm taller.
He was learning. This was his first big traumatic action thriller setting. He had to
Point
learn
Break's
how to come
before
up with the
this.
one-liners. He had to learn how to do all this stuff.
Point Break's before
But
this.
she's like,
No.
Point Break's not that great.
The character's
Oh,
first
Jesus.
experience.
And last, he's not in Speed 2.
Who's
When
to
they
say
run
he didn't
the-
keep
when
doing
they
a whole
run
bunch
the,
of stuff in his own world?
the train through the wall, and Sandra Bullock is like, I can't believe you didn't leave me. And he's like, didn't have anywhere to be just then.
I love that line.
It's really good.
It's a really good line.
It's all fucking good. Like, it's just good. There's no part of this movie where, like, I look at what happens between them and I'm like, ugh, I have to fucking repress this feeling of how this is uncool. It's just nice.
What do you give it, Pedro?
It's a 5, right?
I don't know. I kind of want to, but I probably shouldn't. I think this will get close. I'll give it 4.7.
I'll give it a 4.6. It's a great movie.
It's really good.
It doesn't teach us anything about ourselves as humans,
really
but it's a really fun movie.
But it did teach us about Keanu Reeves.
It did.
I'm going to a 4.4. It would be higher. I just don't love the subway sequence very much. Even though, like, I've seen the movie 1,000 times, I always forget that his head pops off at the end.
Of course it pops off. It's the best way for it to go.
That's how my my great uncle in Poland died. My grandmother used to tell this story.
What?
No, okay, look, so...
He was a bomber. He put a bomb on a bus.
So my grandmother, when she was in her 90s, she didn't ever used to talk about Poland, and then when she was in her 90s, she got nostalgic and starts talking about it. So my whole family is sitting around the dinner table, and my dad asks some offhand question about her dad in Poland, and she starts telling this story about how her father's brother, the question was like, did he keep in touch with anyone in Poland? And she's like, well, he kept in touch with his brother, but then his brother was one of those young men who liked to drink a lot, and he would ride the train, and he would be on the caboose drinking, and then once he put his head out to the side, and they went through a tunnel, and his head came off. And she's saying this like, this is sad, this is her uncle, and my whole family is sitting there like, trying to be even sort of respectful. And we did succeed. We are not assholes. But yes.
Wow.
That's how my great uncle died.
That's amazing.
Great uncle.
Okay.
One of
I thought you should all know.
I hinge this.
Yeah.
A 4.6.
Glad we had this fun.
4.6.
Did I say 4.4 aloud or did I write it down?
No, you
4.4
said
out loud.
Okay. Okay. So that's the movie Speed.
We watched Let the Right One In. This is a Swedish movie. I love Swedish movies because Swedish is the stupidest language. It's so funny to hear people talk Swedish.
That's your major reaction here?
I just love it. I love watching the original Girl with the Dragon Tattoo because they're talking about such serious stuff. But Swedish is just like, it sounds like the Swedish Chef. Like that's what I'm sorry. Please remove this from the podcast.
No.
Leave it in.
It's a 2008 movie from Sweden. It's a horror movie. It's directed by somebody named Thomas Alfredson.
Mm-hmm.
It's based on a book, and the screenplay is actually written by the author, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So Gillian Jacobs' turn, as they would say. So this is a movie about a young
Gillian Flynn.
boy. I'm sorry, what?
Gillian Jacobs is the lead of Community. Gillian Flynn wrote Gone Girl.
Gillian.
Thank you.
They're both
Gillian.
different. I go figure which one's
I
which.
think both of them are Gillians. No, there are normal people. Gillian Anderson is a Gillian.
Right.
Normal Gillians are Gillians.
Wait, I thought
Gillian
Gillian Anderson was a Gillian.
No, she's definitely a Gillian.
She's a Jillian, yeah.
What?
From like the X-Files and
Yeah,
everything?
she's definitely a Gillian.
Gillian Anderson.
What?
Yeah.
Yep. Casey, just leave.
JC's head just fell off.
This is the second item in a row that we've debunked on a podcast.
God damn it.
I'm sorry, JC.
Our focus levels
This
real
fucking
low.
suck. I hate my life. Fucking Let the Right One In. This is a movie about a child named Oscar, who's 12, and he lives in Sweden. and a vampire moves in next door. She's appears to be 12. She has like the classic. What was the chick's name from The Ring?
Naomi
Samara.
Watts.
Samara.
Yeah.
Samara hair. It's long and brown and sort of dirty and tangled. Her name is Ely, and Ely is trying to stay alive by drinking blood because she's a vampire, and she has a like. Is he her dad? Has she bewitched him into helping her? I couldn't figure it out.
I think
A guy who is it her dad?
No, I think it's someone who she's roped in over the years because there's a table with a ring full of wedding rings, basically.
Right.
We stuff like that.
Let's save a part of this segment to the end of the movie. And then
Sure,
I'll talk about my theories about him at the end.
Gotcha.
Right. So she has a helper who's an adult man, and what he does is he kidnaps people, and drains their blood so that she has something to eat. And so this town that they move into, they start like freaking out because like people are just disappearing. It's something I had to remind myself while watching it. Is like, this is Sweden. They probably have like 2 murders a year. Like nobody has a gun. Like because at the beginning I was like, why is everybody bugging out over this? And then I realized,
that's such a sad commentary on America.
Right? I was like, okay, some people are disappearing. Like, why is everybody like, ah! Especially because it's in Stockholm. So I'm like, it's a city. But
Suburb
anyway.
of Stockholm.
But then they become friends. Oscar and Ely becomes friends because at night when Oscar is outside angsting on the jungle gym, Ely appears and they start talking to each other and he teaches her Morse code and they develop a friendship. And then they fall as much in love as 12-year-olds can. Except she's not 12. She's ancient. So maybe we should talk about that later. Her guardian is killing people, but he's really bad at it. He keeps getting caught until he finally gets caught and he's in and he eventually dies. And then she has to start snatching people and doing it. And then people start trying to find her. And it's a whole situation.
So you all hadn't seen it before, right?
Correct.
I saw it with you.
Did you?
No, I have not seen
Good
it.
for us.
I think we saw it together. It was my first time seeing it. I don't know if it was yours.
Austin has been telling me to see this movie for approximately 11 years.
Yes.
Yeah, and I've been meaning to watch it
That's
forever,
when
too.
When did this come out?
2008.
2008.
So that
So
was
literally
I-
the year we graduated.
Yeah, I didn't
high
see
school.
it in theaters. I bought it on Blu-ray, like sight unseen. Like I've been waiting for it. Yeah, I missed it when I was in Indiana for like a day, and I've been wanting to see it so badly. And
We
bought
may
it.
have seen it together.
I think we might have
the
seen
first
it
time.
together. Yeah, but I showed people a lot, so I've probably seen this now like 4 or 5 times.
It's so good.
Did anyone get scared by this movie?
I did
No.
when I first watched it. 'Cause it's
Not
a
at all.
creepy movie.
I would say it's, I tend to be more affected by jump scares than by the kind of creepiness that's in this movie. There were a couple
Yeah.
of, like, jumpy things, but not a lot. For the most part, it's just creepy AF.
You know,
I didn't find it that creepy, and I didn't find it scary at all.
because I have a former roommate of mine back in college. He wanted a scary movie to watch with his girlfriend at the time, and I said this was one of my favorites that come out recently, and they watched it and they go, "This is really good," but I think it's more of a drama than a horror movie because they weren't even getting close to being scared. I go, "But there's a vampire and it killed things and it's creepy." I think it's a horror film.
I mean, like, speaking of something like Hereditary, I feel like now, like, the amount of gross stuff that has to be in a movie for it to really be like, oh, like, that really horrific image is very scary without it being, like, a jump scare or something super suspenseful. I think the bar for that is sort of different, maybe, than it was in 2008.
It's funny because Hereditary has an image in that movie. One of my favorite horror images, I think, is inspired from this movie. Because you mentioned horror jump scares. I think one of my favorite moments in this movie is like the opposite. The jump is leaving the horror when there are flames on the hospital bed, and it's like so insane.
Oh, yeah, that part was
then
cool.
there's a jump cut to normalcy.
Yeah.
It's like the opposite of like a big
Right.
jump scare. And that level of a tower of fire is kind of also in Hereditary,
it's
surprisingly. Didn't put
Yeah.
that together till right now, but
I just thought that part was cool.
That's
Maybe
okay.
No,
That
it
was
was
really
not.
cool.
I mean, this is not like, I think, like, this is a, like, I think it's hard to call any vampire movie where there are like various dismemberings and insanity not a horror movie, but this is definitely a horror movie that can be watched by people who are generally like freaked out by like jump scares. I mean, this is not a jump scare movie. I can't think of
it's not.
any times that I
was
fire
afraid of
closest
there
thing.
being a jump scare throughout
Yes,
the first
I
time
had
I
that
watched
as well,
it.
but-
So that
which
was
is
like,
honestly awesome because they're kind of going for that. And like my favorite image of the movie in terms of the creepiness image is the great scene where there is the nurse who's taking a cigarette break outside the hospital, and you just see outside,
that part's dope.
and this is like you see just like dozens of windows that just kind of watch the building at an angle, and if you're looking, you realize that something is a little bit off. And then you realize that she was on the wall the whole time.
Right.
And then once someone looks away, she scurries up another couple floors.
Yeah.
And it's such a great it's still. I don't like that it's still. Why is it still? There's
Right.
a reason it's still.
Right.
Oh shit! Is that a body? Then it moves. It's such a great.
That and
bit.
then I'm sure we'll talk about the scene more, but the swimming pool scene.
swimming pool
Those
scene
are the
was
two.
crazy cool.
100%.
Or like the scene where he's under the water, like that. Those two things, I was like, yeah, that shit. I love that.
Yeah.
It's really good stuff.
So if it was maybe creepy but not a horror film, what do you guys think about it as a young love movie?
No, that's weird.
I think there was something about like that, or I was like, that was a little strange. I think like something that I watched this movie today and I had to sort of watch it while doing other stuff. And I think so I want to own that I probably wasn't in the right, I didn't give this movie the 100% focus that maybe it demanded from me. But I kept thinking about, this is a movie where a kid is bullied and then a bigger bully who's, a nice vampire girl, comes in and protects him and all of this stuff. And it was just sort of I was kind of unsure about what the movie was trying to tell me about those sort of dynamics. And I think maybe because we live in this world where children bring guns to school every day, that it was hard for me to sit and be yeah, at the end of the movie, oh, I love that this relationship is happening, or I don't know. I was
really
left feeling very
disturbed
skeptical about it.
yeah, I don't think
I'm
trying to say anything's good
Oh,
about
it's very
it.
negative.
Okay.
Yeah.
I very much felt
Okay.
like that, as her friendship grows with Oscar, I do get the you do get the feeling that she's not intentionally trying to manipulate him or seduce him. It does seem like there's some genuineness to Ely's loneliness that is real. And I think we are supposed to think that that's real, but in the end, we've just got a very violent kid who's been violent. I mean, there's a Chekhov's knife in this movie. A very violent kid who, from the beginning, we know has a lot of pent-up rage stuff. And yes, he's being bullied, but he is also being encouraged to become more violent, and basically ends up with the ultimate weapon, and they're gonna go wreak havoc on Sweden. I think that's how that
So
goes.
we're not going to talk about the end of the film, which is not a good big plot twist thing, but I just want to talk about it as a whole. So anyone who hasn't seen it, rent it or whatever, good next segment. But to me, that is the great tragedy.
But we are going to talk about
We're talking about it. You said we're not going to.
Oh,
So
we're sorry.
Yeah,
now
we are.
now
going
we
to
are
talk
going
about
to talk
Yes.
about it.
Okay.
Yeah, to me, that is the guy who was her former caretaker was essentially the previous Oscar, right?
That's what I think.
Yeah.
That's
That they
yes,
all
Yeah.
for a long time, there are these people who are fascinated by her, will do everything for her until their dying breath. Literally, his dying breath is to extend his neck so she can have one more bit of blood.
Oh, because
as
he wasn't
falls
allowed
out.
to let her in too. That's so sad. I thought that was actually kind of tragic.
Well, and it is ultimately this is a movie about loneliness. That's what this movie is about.
Yeah.
It's about loneliness, and I would like to watch it again because I think I got most of the emotional beats. But if I was going to just make a bold statement, it's about loneliness and the toxicity of loneliness, that you can get real fucked up if you don't have outside input into your life and end up just relying on one other person to build a life together. And fundamentally, Oscar is this kid who actually has a lot, there's a lot going on with him, but he is not without options to fix his situation of being bullied,
Yeah.
like, at all. Like, I mean, he has sympathetic teachers. He has a dad who cares about him. His mom seems to be kind of a like distant mess, but like he has a dad who cares about him. He has these things available to him, and he instead, like, when he's alone with his anger and meets somebody who is that's what she understands as well. And so,
well, she needs essentially people like him who are angry and want violence out there because she needs violence.
And I think that ultimately, the moment where he like finally figures out, sort of like it's all out in the open what she is, and she says, "You need to like be more like me." Like you can't let them do this to you. Be more like me. And then he does, and he fairly badly injures the kid who's beating him up. He does not like call the teacher or sock the guy in the face. Like he like hits him with like a hard stick and like basically like rips up his ear pretty badly. And like there's all this like if the kid had ever talked to anybody about this girl or about what was going on, this wouldn't have happened. But there are people in the world who will never do that, and Oscar seems to be one of them.
I am so glad to hear you guys say this, because I really felt like I was missing something while watching this movie, because I was like, this feels like so this is 2008. This is like Sweden's version of like young white boys getting on the internet and discovering the incel movement. Ely is Sweden's vampire Reddit.
No, yeah, but like there's a little bit of like, it's giving in to like his most like immature and sort of base like revenge instincts, instead of taking advantage of like, again, like it's presented very like starkly, but what seems to be a pretty, robust community that he could take advantage of, but
and that's like
feels isolated because he's 13, and being 13 sucks.
And in her side, it is such a miserable, like I always feel like it's such a sad movie, and the way they depict being a vampire is so upsetting, because other movies you have like, oh yeah, I have to, like, you have the sexy vampires, right? You get a bunch of different versions of Dracula, you get Interview with the Vampire, yada yada yada. This really is, whenever you get to one of the vampire tropes, having to drink blood, having to not be able to be let in and whatnot, exposed to the sun, it is so upsetting. And it goes to like this like large cosmic thing of like, you are cursed and like God hates you in like a very specific way. Maybe also it's a Swedish film, so like everything becomes to a Bergman film if you in that much snow. But it really is like her just like, going past the threshold into a house you're not invited in, and just like it's so like no way to take it aside.
It's
like
that she sleeps in during the day, like they have a sexy sarcophagus or whatever for normal vampires. No, she's curled up in a bathtub with a million blankets on top of her so that she doesn't burn alive.
And I think any vampire story that goes deep, like that actually spends time thinking about it, thinks about the concept of the child vampire, and it's such a uniquely tragic concept. A child like being forced to live forever and never grow old as a child, where you are trapped in this like version of yourself that can never be like everything you want to be, like to never grow up. And but I think it's interesting too, like this is a really good movie. It's got a lot going on, because we also have like, we know a little bit about how I love vampire shit. I liked it before the Twilight shit. I'm a Buffy vampire era vampire person, but like I always like to watch like, what are you doing with the different pieces of mythology? And like, apparently in this world, the way that you make a vampire is you just suck someone's blood and they don't die. Like, the only reason that Virginia, the sort of prostitute-like character,
I think she was his sister.
Is she
just a townie?
She's just a townie. Okay, I couldn't figure out what her relationship with the old men was.
Yeah, they're all townies.
The cats scene is also crazy, by the way. When the cats all attack her,
it was so scary.
Bad special effects.
Bad special effects.
It's only
but it's
you're not gonna put real cats on a person.
No, I know. I'm just saying that like that's the one thing where they go like,
it is
I cringe a little bit, but like,
sure,
ooh, those your digital masking is not very
It's
good.
not great, but like
That's a great idea, though.
Like she starts to realize what she is, and she kills herself.
Yeah.
Like she says, "Open the blinds," and burns herself to death. And so it's interesting. Like Ely becomes more interesting in a world where somebody does that, right? Because she's very unhappy.
But she's aware that, like, this happens because the first kill that she has to go out and do on her own, after seemingly sucking all of his blood out, she breaks his neck.
Oh, yeah.
All the way around.
Oh,
It's like,
yeah, that
why do
part's
that?
legit.
Oh, because they can't come back.
Yeah, and that's like, and that
you
is,
don't want them to come back.
and like that, and yet she doesn't kill herself, and she doesn't, and she does like recruit, it seems, Oscar into her life, and yet like what I think is interesting is like we don't get this like sudden turn where we realize that Ely is like has secretly been manipulating the whole time. Like it's not like that. Like they have some sort of
There's just
real relationship. It's just that she also but she also needs him.
Yeah.
It almost is like it's an inevitability, right?
Yeah.
Once you say you're a vampire, either you go, burn her at the stake, you're a monster, or, oh, I think you're cool, and if I think you're cool, then you're willing to kill for her. There's a
like
line
weird...
of like, if you don't see her as a monster, you're going to follow
and
a
it's
monster.
the way that it's the way that monsters prey on very, very lonely, vulnerable people, and the danger that presents. I mean, it's a really fucking good movie with a lot going on and a lot of layers, and it's pretty. It's really pretty.
Great score.
Great score. A lot of snow, a lot of ice, a lot of blood on snow and ice.
Yeah, that's fair.
Just, always good.
What are they going to do when summer rolls around and Sweden is now mostly daylight instead of night?
Well, it ends on a train, right?
Yeah.
And she's in a box.
Do they go to the other side of the world where it's mostly night in the southern
I
hemisphere?
don't know.
So I was like, Sweden is smart, right? Let's
Like,
go
I
up
love
here
that
where there's like
idea.
all of 5 hours of light a day. Because
Right.
like the movie is basically entirely set at night. When he comes out of school, it's
Right.
always night.
It's
when
always
he
night.
goes
When
to
he
school,
goes to school, it's at night because it's fucking
it's
Sweden.
winter.
Right.
Such a good movie. I
It's
really
very
like the movie a
good.
lot.
It's really good. I want to see it again because it's like really.
Yeah.
It's got a lot.
I
going
feel
on.
like I want to watch it again knowing that, like, I'm not crazy for being like, why is this about, like, young boys being radicalized by the internet, except it's vampires?
Like, I mean, it's not. Yeah, it's about. Yeah, I mean, it's about the exploitation of young male loneliness for sure.
Right, yeah.
And that's what
Young male loneliness that, like, completely has other solutions other than whatever they choose.
It's so cool how much they don't treat the violence like. I mean, it is like super stylish, like JC alluded to the pool scene of like his head being pushed down, and you see the carnage. But they make such a point that like the bullies' goons are just like scared little boys who like don't like being bullies. And
she leaves one of them alive.
The one who like wanted to not be a part of it. He's just like closing his eyes because he doesn't even want to watch the
and which makes it even
bullying.
like sadder to have like he just watched his friends be demolished by a monster.
Oh yeah, he's gonna not do great.
I know that last image just him like this.
Heard it. Oh, he looks up and it's all okay, but he didn't see them. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean either way you figure out that
I think the kid with the short blue shirt.
Can I also just say really quickly, who the fuck was teaching this kid how to swim? Every time fucking Oscar's in the water, he's treading with his mouth wide fucking open. Like, does his nose not work?
I'm glad that you all. He has the dumbest way of swimming, and he's like, he's just so happy.
They're like, he's like, I can't swim. I'm like, close your fucking mouth, kid. That's like swimming 101.
But like, I just this movie's so like, there's so much good stuff too, though, about like the way that the adults react to Oscar. And there's times that he should have done something different or gone to someone different to get help. But there's also times that he does, and they don't help him in a useful way. Like he goes and says like, I want to take strength training classes. And the coach is like, okay, great. And basically he's like, okay, great. I'm going to train you up so you can fight back. And like, no one ever asks the kid what the fuck is going on. You know what I mean? Like,
and the coach barely pays attention while he's like lifting weights, which is like a great
he's
image.
reading the newspaper about the most recent body that was discovered.
Like, there's a lot going on in your town. There's so many different parts to this story, and it's so good. And like at the same time, like it's really dense because the most that you get, even Oscar and Ely, you don't exactly get like monologues of their thoughts about the world. You get like a couple sentences each exchanged, and a lot of like long sits in silence. Like it's a very it's a very sparsely dialogue. There's not a lot of words in this movie.
Very Swedish. Like if they try to,
Yeah.
they'll exude too much effort and freeze to death.
And freeze to death.
Yeah,
Right?
and then you'll fucking hear how stupid Swedish sounds. I'm so sorry for anybody who speaks Swedish. It doesn't sound dumb. It just is like, it's so unexpected the way it sounds. Because you think it's going to sound German, but it doesn't at all. That's why I like it, is because it sounds like cool, and then they'll say something and I'll be like, what? What was just said? Thanks for IKEA.
JC, how many hinges do you give it?
I am going to give it a 4-4. I feel like on a rewatch, if I re-experience this movie, now that I have this crucial conversation in mind, I feel like I would perceive it a little differently. But a 4-4 for now.
Maybe a 4-5. No, 4-6.
4-6?
4-6. No, 4-7. Some part of me
Be
doesn't
bold.
feel correct in saying that this is a worse movie than Speed.
It's funny. I gave Speed a 4-6, and I feel like they are incomparable movies.
I saw Sarah lean across the table to look at my notes of what did I give.
Yeah, no, I feel like I wouldn't say it's obviously like Speed is not a better movie than this, but I'm cool with them being like completely incomparable but enjoyable in different ways.
JC and I flipped our hinge ratings of 4-4 and 4-6 for the
there you
two.
go.
You two both
So,
gave.
according to all the votes, these two films are exactly the same.
Yeah, these are the same. These
Correct.
Are the same film, and that's why
I think
rating
that's the
systems
point of this podcast.
stupid.
To draw equivocations where none should exist.
Cool.
So I have not seen, but it seems like the general consensus is Let Me In, just as good, not a weird American rehash.
Yeah, so
I've also heard that.
So I've seen it, and it is good. It is not as good as this, because this is like one of my favorite horror films of the 2000s.
Is it more of an actual horror movie?
It does the same plot, so it does the same sequences. It adds a couple more creepy elements to it. Richard Jenkins plays the guardian of the vampire, and he is so good at it.
No! Oh my god. I gotta watch it right now.
There's one scene in that movie that is better than like a scene in this movie. Like there is a really impressive one-take sequence of him leaving an event where he fucked up again and didn't get the kill.
Yeah.
And it's stunning. Chloe Grace Moretz is the
Right.
is the vampire. It is good. I do recommend it. It's not like an embarrassing remake. Yeah, I recommend it. It's has some good, Matt Reeves, I believe, is the one who directed it. He did the last two Planet of the Apes sequels. So like, it's a competent genre dude. He's good.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's called Let Me In.
Yeah.
So differences.
I feel like Let the Right One In is a better title just because it has some different layers of meaning.
Right.
Like,
It's a great phrase too.
Right?
you better let the right one in to your debilitating loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Or else you could be radicalized.
Or, a vampire might tear you to pieces.
Also that.
Exactly.
It's true.
Literally.
So that is our movie segment. We are going to now take a very brief couple second intermission for you all because JC has to go. So goodbye, JC. We'll see you next episode.
Bye.
As you'll hear at the end of this episode, we're going to be having a week off. So we'll see you in a little bit.
Thank you. I have one thing to say.
Yes.
And that is Supermassive Black Hole by Muse survived being the soundtrack for the scene in the first Twilight movie where the vampires play baseball.
Oh, shit.
Oh shit, it totally is!
Yeah.
Wait, but also that scene is the only good thing about the Twilight movie.
That scene is insane.
That scene is so good.
The thunderstorm baseball game?
It's amazing.
Yeah, the thunderstorm
Oh,
baseball
Jesus.
game. I just needed to make sure that was said on the podcast. And
You
I
okay?
give that song a 4-6. It's really good.
Alright, I'm
Okay, bye everybody. You're
Bye,
all beautiful.
JC.
Let the right one in.
Best believe I punched Keanu Reeves and it was better than any scene you could see in Speed. I hit John Wick and now I'm feeling so appealing. Basically, I'm a god, you could call me Hercules. Best believe I punched Keanu Reeves and it was better than any scene you could see in Speed. I'm telling you for real, I punched Neo. He could duck bullets, but he couldn't duck me. I'm feeling so refreshed, the new sheriff's in town. Check the button on my vest, it's Keanu with the bruise around the oculus. Now I'm just cruising the metropolis, in my prime like Optimus. Everything is half full, I'm an optimist. Haven't done ish, yet I feel accomplished. Best pugilist, blessed with the iron fist.
And now we're back. Now it is time for our album segment, which is appropriate, just having the three of us in this one recording location geographically, which is...
Illinois. And we are listening to Sufjan Stevens' album, Illinois.
All things go, drove to Chicago. All things know, we sold our clothes to the state. I don't mind, I made a lot of mistakes in my mind.
Illinois is Sufjan Stevens' 2005 album. Sufjan Stevens is I think now the best way that one would define him looking back is that he is, I mean, he's still active, is that he is a folk musician. He is also an indie rock musician. Okay. He is also like a synth rock electronica musician, and also notably at this era of his career, is operating with a full orchestra behind him for all of his albums. So Illinois is probably his most famous album, I would say. Those who were not aware of Sufjan Stevens in the like mid-aughts are probably aware of him because he was nominated for an Oscar 2 years ago for the Call Me By Your Name, for best song, for the closing song of Call Me By Your Name. Which
he had
really
a couple
good.
original songs in that movie.
I think he did, my memory is that he did the whole album. He did the whole soundtrack.
That was the romance film between Armie Hammer and Timothée Chalamet. Family. You dig it. It's a good movie.
Okay.
Yeah. Michael Stuhlbarg's in it.
Right, so it's not all Sufjan Stevens, but it is, he composed 2 original songs for the film. But Illinois is, it's actually the second of 2 state-themed albums. He's from Michigan, so his album 2 years before this was Michigan. This is Illinois, and every song, many of which have very, very, very long titles, some of which I have to read just because they're one of the weirder things about the album that I kind of love. They're all about something. They're about a place in Illinois, or they're about a thing that happened in Illinois, and it's definitely not just Chicago. It's got some deep cut downstate stuff, but like they have great names. The very longest one is track 2, The Black Hawk War, or How to Demolish an Entire Civilization and Still Feel Good About Yourself in the Morning, or We Apologize for the Inconvenience, but You're Going to Have to Leave Now, or I Have Fought the Big Knives and Will Continue to Fight Them Until They Are Off Our Lands. But like the first song is concerning
Wait, those are all different.
No, that's one song.
That's one.
That's one title of a song.
God damn! Holy shit! I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, the first song on the album which is a great song, is concerning the UFO sighting near Highland, Illinois, which is a real thing that happened, where some cops, of all people, say they spotted a UFO.
Sure.
I think my favorite is number 17, if you want to read that one aloud.
Oh, 17
it's 40 seconds long.
It's a 40 seconds long. Yeah, and he has a bunch of like interstitial tracks like this, but this one is called Let's Hear That String Part Again, because I don't think they heard it all the way out in Bushnell, which is amazing.
It's just 40 seconds of beautiful string music.
Of the beautiful string music. But it also has one called The Sears Tower, CEER, The Sears Tower, and one that's simply called Chicago, which is definitely the breakout song on the album. And Austin mentioned at some point before we were recording, like, it's been in a ton of movies and stuff. I'm not even sure how many, because like I love the song Chicago so much as like a matter of like nostalgia, which I'll talk about in a sec, that like I don't even pay attention.
I think I just heard it in the Veronica Mars movie. Looking at
that seems right. I mean, it's been
Little Miss Sunshine was a big thing.
Yeah, it's in Little Miss Sunshine. That's probably my like major like reference. But yeah, it's awesome. So I love this album as a piece of nostalgia because I started college. I moved to Chicago for college. Went to the University of Chicago, and I moved here in September of 2006. So this was like an album my brother told me about the summer of 2006, about a year after it came out, and I was obsessed with it, and I remember distinctly turning on the track Chicago as I drove with my minivan full of stuff with my parents across the Skyway from Indiana into Chicago for the first time as like a person who was going to live in Chicago.
That's a lot.
Yeah, no, that can't be right. Wait, no, 13 years ago now, almost exactly 13 years ago, and I never left. And so this was also my first concert because my best friend and I, who came to Chicago together, bought tickets to a Sufjan Stevens concert at the Riviera Theater up in Uptown, which we went to. I've never felt more sober in my life because Sufjan Stevens at the time would perform in giant butterfly wings with an entire orchestra backing him, also wearing shimmery, beautiful rainbow outfits, and also everyone around us was on acid. Oh my god, everyone was on acid, and we were 18 and had gotten lost 3 different ways on the CTA trying to get from one side of the city to the other. And
this is for that concert?
For that concert. This is
God,
my
told
like
this story before.
my defining like first weekend living away from home experience that involved getting very lost and having to call the campus police, and they gave us a ride home in the back of their squad car because we didn't know how to get home. And that was for a Sufjan Stevens concert. So I have a lot of feelings about this album. I've listened to it so many times. I've talked a lot. I will let Austin talk. I have more to say though.
No, it's great. I mean, I don't know a lot about Sufjan Stevens. Obviously, he was very distinct in Call Me By Your Name, which had just like these beautiful songs that just blended so well with the location and the romance of the movie. And this just was those were kind of quiet moments that kind of punctuated the intimacy of that movie. This is taking that same type of affection and making it grand, right? The horn section alone in this album is stunning,
so cool.
And so powerful and amazing. And you have sad songs, you have like incredible songs. It's just, and the brilliant backup vocals are so powerful.
Yeah.
That it's an incredible album. It's one of those that like flies by. You don't know where that 75 minutes went, and you want to listen to it again.
Yeah. He also does not, because I love him because he does not write songs about love. Everyone writes songs about love. He writes songs about like life and the human experience, and some of them are like really sad. Like Casimir Pulaski Day is a song about someone that he knows and loves dying of bone cancer, and it's super, like, it's beautiful, but it's like, there's a song about John Wayne Gacy that is
that one's really
good and sad and strange.
Yeah, is he the one that would hang out at the L&L Tavern, this like dive bar that like prided itself on being the worst bar in Chicago?
I think so. Yeah,
okay.
John Wayne Gacy Jr. is like, that's John Wayne Gacy,
right?
Like,
that's I'm saying that's the name of the track,
right? Yeah, who dresses as a clown, and that's a weird like song about the tragedy of what he did that's also oddly sort of emotionally resonant with like him as a human being, and like is very good and strange and a very good song and unlike anything that I can think of anyone else doing. Probably my favorite, other than Chicago, which is the best thing ever. There's a song called what is it? It's the Wasp one. The predatory wasp of the Palisades is out to get us. It's amazing. I really can't say more except that like that song is just like a trip. It's great. It's just, he was of an era in his that like, but I do think like, I mean, even though he's still making albums, like he's never become quite as famous again as he was in the mid-aughts. And like he's from an era like Andrew Bird was of this era too, and there's some other indie like folk singers who are doing like crazy like experimental stuff, particularly in their stage performances, that are these like these rich textured pieces of art. And I've never heard anyone else do anything quite like what he does on this album.
And it's funny, like when you like we've talked about this before on the podcast, when you kind of find like the Rosetta Stone of things. Because like I've heard a bunch of like, especially in indie films, these kind of really like beautiful indie songs. And there's like one song I heard that I put it on my phone. I think it's still on there. I just heard like in the movie Like Crazy, which is not a very good movie, but there's one song that's like stuck in my head, so I put it on my phone. And it sounded so much like this album. I go, oh right, because they were ripping off Sufjan Stevens.
Right.
I now have tracked this.
No, and for a while there definitely was like he was doing this thing, and everyone wanted to be doing.
It's like
this thing.
It's the beautiful whisper singing, like of a certain like woman's voice.
Yeah, but yeah, he's great. He's interesting. I also resonate with him. He's a Christian. He's actually an Anglican. He's an Episcopalian, as am I. And this is one of his most of his albums, I would say, are not explicitly religious. He does have one called Seven Swans, which is explicitly religious and is friggin' beautiful. That's straight sort of folk songs about Bible stories, but not like they are not evangelistic in any way. They are like meditations on the concept of like these Bible stories and what they mean to us. There's one called Abraham that's about Abraham sacrificing his kid, which is wild. He's really great, and I'm really glad that this album made this list, because I do think that he's one of these. I really hope he doesn't fade into like the general early 2000s mishmash of indie artists. Like, he's really something special.
Yeah, I was blown away. I mean, it's my first time hearing the whole album of his, and I mean, it's a hell of a one to start with, it seems like. And it's one that I'm going to kind of keep revisiting. And there's so much to find, too. Because it's such an amazing whole that I'm sure if I kind of, like, look further into the pieces, it just gets more
You would also
rewarding.
Google the title, like pieces of the titles of every single one, and it's some, like, weird, wild story that he got interested in. And Michigan, his previous album, is equally good, I would say. They are very much of a piece, and they're both wonderful. Damn, he's so good. This is also, like, I think, probably the first time that I'm like, oh, this is one of my favorite albums, like, that came out while I was alive. Like, it was maybe my favorite album that has come out while I was alive, if I, like, really... Yeah, I think it probably is. That isn't a music, that isn't like Hamilton, that isn't a musical. So I love this album very, very much. 5. This is one of my favorite albums of all time.
It would have been amazing if we were like 2.3. There's flaws. 4.5.
Awesome.
All right, that was Illinois. Now it's time for the song segment. Pedro, what else we hear in terms of one individual song that you were assigned, motherfucker?
We heard. This week we listened to Supermassive Black Hole by Muse. Supermassive Black Hole is the, I believe, third track of their album Black Holes and Revolutions. Came out in 2006, right around the same time as...
Yep. Right in my peak, like, Sarah has so many feelings era.
Guys, I'm not the biggest fan of this song.
You don't like this song?
Not that I don't like it. I remember listening to this album cover to cover, like, on repeat for ages and ages and ages, like... But there were a lot of other songs I liked on this album. Specifically, my favorite one is probably track 4, Map of the Problematique, which is the one right after this one. So this became the song before my favorite song.
That's funny.
Which is like, it can never really live down that now anymore.
It's really funny.
It's not the song's fault, but also, like, I've heard it so many times, and it's a great Muse song, but there's nothing in it in particular that, like, nothing individual about it that makes it speak to me or stand out in the album. I think it's one of the better whatever tracks of the album, if that makes sense.
It's one of Muse's definitely most famous songs.
It's so famous.
It's the hit from the album.
Super popular. I remember talking to some of our friends, because this came out when we were... so if this was 2016, let's see if I can get a month on
19th
here.
of June, 2016.
Okay, perfect. So this is summer between our
sophomore and junior years,
yes,
probably, right? Yeah,
when
because it's the summer.
When everyone's getting cars, everyone is freshly 16. Everyone's going to school and listening to whatever they want in the car.
Well, and this is
as
the
they
summer.
carpool.
This is the summer after I graduated from high school, when everyone was driving around with like aimless summer jobs.
Yep.
So yeah, I heard this song a lot.
It was
Wait, so 2006, not 2016.
Right.
Oh,
sorry,
yes.
2006.
And then, 2006.
Yeah.
School had just ended. Summer was kicking off. We all had cars.
Got
we
it,
were
got
gonna
it,
be juniors and run the world. And we listened to Muse a lot. Like, a lot.
Yeah.
So it's a great song. It's fine. But the amount of popularity it enjoys is a little beyond me.
Well, okay, let's just go through the things that it is used for between when it comes out and about 2007 and about 2013. It is used for it is one of the songs on Guitar Hero 3 Legends of Rock. Then it is used as the backdrop to the only good scene in the original Twilight movie, that time when all the vampires play baseball during a thunderstorm.
Yep.
Then it is used as the soundtrack for the video game FIFA 07. It is then featured on an episode of Supernatural. It is then featured at the beginning of a season 6 Doctor Who episode.
Yeah, now I'm seeing how this makes sense.
And then is used as the trailer for Castle. And then
oh wow,
it shows up in a Sopranos episode.
Yep.
So like this song is in everything.
I mean, maybe it's just because it is so
ubiquitous.
Ubiquitous, but also like universally accessible as a song.
Yeah, no, it's a good song. It's a banger. It's like, yeah. I mean, I also felt like I was like, oh yeah, this is a good song, but I wasn't like, it's not stuck in my head now. Like I'm not like wanting to listen to it again. It's just in everything.
Yeah. No, I haven't listened to this album in a minute, and just to make sure I still felt this way, I listened to this song and then a few of the other ones that I remember being hits, including the fourth track. I let it just bleed one into the other, and I was like, okay, yeah, no, this is just a great song on the soundtrack. It's not one of like my memorable ones, like, and probably because there isn't like anything that you could really hate about the song itself. There's nothing. It's pretty. There's not a lot being said. First of all, the same lyrics repeated like multiple times. There's not a lot of different verses. It's not very complicated. There's a lot of sound coming at you, but it's all sort of like rolled and folded into itself, and it's just like samplings from a million different places, which is fine. But there's nothing like that just like shoots out and like makes anything awkward in your ear. So it's all right.
It's good. It's
catchy,
fine.
I guess.
It's catchy.
It is catchy.
It's in stuff. I'm not gonna say it's a bad song, and I almost like. I understand why it's on a list like this. Like it's an iconic song of its time,
very iconic.
And Muse is an iconic band of
Muse
that time.
Somehow enjoyed that kind of exponential growth over a decade. Not even like they. I think their first album came out at its latest, late 90s?
I'm like not that big
not
a fan
even
of Muse, really, though. Like I think they're fine. I think they're completely
my sister
I don't really
is
fine.
an enormous fan. Follows them around. Well, not like that much, but there were like Black Holes and Revelations I listened to a lot, and the album before that I listened to a lot as well. But again, only like four, maybe 6 songs out of the whole were like the ones I would go to. Like I would program my CD player to only go through those songs. But
Now, did you have a CD player that was it a Walkman CD player?
Yes.
Okay, and you could program it so it only went through tracks like 2 through 7. Oh yeah, no, totally had that capability on my Sony brand Walkman, along with anti-skip technology.
Yes.
A very specific. I feel like tape Walkmen have a much larger window, but there are people like you have to be within like 3 years of me in either direction to have had like a CD Walkman with anti-skip technology.
Yep, because very shortly before or after you were getting into the MP3.
Right, you either had an iPod, and I eventually did. Like by the end of high school, I had an iPod, I think, or maybe at the beginning of college.
I had this weird like round 1.5 gig storage MP3 player.
Like one of the like early iPod.
Oh, like a square one?
No,
was it a Zune?
No, I had Adele DJ for a bit. That was like the one that I graduated to, like the adult person's one. But like at first it was just like this weird contraption that held 1.5 gigs worth of music.
I still have at my parents' house, like I think I had an iPod 2, which was like a silver bodied with a white face. It had a wheel. It had the wheel, which was like their big thing. Yeah. But it had push buttons, like separate push buttons, like no touch screen, no nothing. Old school, and it weighed like more than my smartphone does now.
It was.
But before that, definitely I had, I think, two different, like I had an original CD Walkman. It's not like a Walkman, but I had
they called it a Walkman.
Yeah, I had a tape Walkman.
Yeah.
And then very briefly, and then I had two CDs.
Yep.
But
that was a lot of fun.
How good your anti-skip technology was like the biggest thing.
Yeah, because like I remember balancing my CD player on my hand, on my fingers to like have maximum shock absorption when I'm on the bus, because like I couldn't like hold it in my hand. I had to like balance it around so that it wouldn't like
and then like
jumbled too much.
Right before iPods, there's this brief window where we're burning CDs off of Napster or Kazam. So it's like you're downloading tracks and then burning them onto CDs. But then if something jiggles while they're burning, they will get a skip in them. Yep. And so then it's like, well, is the skip coming from my CD or is it coming from my CD player? And you have to listen to it a couple of times to realize the skip was always in the same place.
Yep. But man, that anti-skip.
This is my life.
I remember the first time I was able to hold my player, just like have it in my lap and listen to my song all the way through.
It was very exciting.
Magical.
Oh yeah, it was very exciting.
And then like 2 years later, I was like, yeah, but look at this. I've got 10,000 songs.
Yeah, and the world was different forever.
Yep.
And that was the death of the album. Most music people will say.
Very also weird interlapping moment, and Muse actually fit into this perfectly, was the MP3 tracks on a CD, where you could fit many MP3 tracks. You could fit up to 700 megabytes worth of data. So I would fit both of my Muse albums onto one disc, and it was my Muse disc.
And could you play it on your...
Not on my Discman,
but
most cars at that point had MP3 playing capability on discs. So, as our friends would roll up to pick us up in their car on the way to school, now that we had that autonomy, pop the CD in there, and we could hear MP3 songs.
My best friend in college had bought a used car that was from like 2001 or 2002. It was an old VW. It was like a new Bug, right? Like a new VW Bug, and it had a CD changer in the trunk, so you could put your 6 CDs in there and then change them up on the dashboard. And all of this is proof of the horror of what has happened to all of us guys, which is that we are now in the nostalgia generation of pop culture instead of the target generation of pop culture, because we are old like the Crypt Keeper.
Which is a reference from a 2003 film.
It is.
Anyone got more about the song?
No, not at all. I just like talking about the early 2000s.
It was a very interesting time for music and us.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, it's just, this is the other thing. I mean, like, I think there's probably for everybody, like a window, like whatever was on the radio between when you were ages like 14 and 20, like, you just have so many more feelings in those 6 years than you ever will have again. And music is all about connecting to feelings, that it's like all of those things are like, my soul. So, yeah.
I'll give this 4.3. Pretty good. Not the best.
3.8. Perfectly fine song.
4.
I like how timed this is for the week that we're recording, because this is the week, this week or maybe late last week, where our Milky Way's very own central black hole decided to flash very bright. Like 70 times its normal brightness.
I heard that
like a couple hours.
That was one of the headlines I saw earlier that just kind of mixed together with like incoming recession, horrible mass shooting. Like it just kind of filled my apocalypse headlines.
Right.
I'm like, I don't know what this means.
Black hole got bright.
Black hole got bright. Black hole got bright.
Black hole no longer black.
Economists say, everything's gone crazy. I'm like, okay, this is just in the rotation now. I'm just gonna look for something else.
There's a bunch of supermassive black hole shit going on.
Yeah.
Recently, a lot of discoveries.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Cool.
Sometimes you can see things in the sky really well if you're up where it's cold, Austin, in the hinterlands.
Sure. Where are the hinterlands?
They're I don't know, they're far away in the north where things are cold.
Where the Northern Lights exist.
I think that's what hinterlands means, right?
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of like winter.
No, I think hinterlands means that. I don't really know.
That is true, actually. Let's
all right, OED.
Oxford Dictionary.
Yeah, it's free.
That is wonderful.
It's got ads, but it's free.
What does it say?
The hinterlands are the remote areas of a country away from the coast or banks of major rivers. So the cold is not a necessary requirement.
It's not super cold in this show.
All right, then.
Oh, wait, the show is this week Hinterland. Hinterland is a Welsh mystery show.
Of course it is.
Yep. It's set in Wales, filmed in Wales. Very Welsh. Mm-hmm. They even actually filmed every scene twice. Once in English, once in Welsh.
Oh, well, I wouldn't imagine that the mouth movements would match up well for dubbing.
Oh, yeah.
Welsh is a crazy language.
So I watched it on Netflix. I've only seen the English version. It would be crazy to have it dubbed into Welsh for the English-speaking scenes. I only seen it in English. It's a mystery show. I basically summarized it entirely. Every episode, which is, depending on where you're seeing it, on Netflix, they combine the two parts into 1 hour-and-a-half episode, or you can watch it in 2 parts, like a lot of European mystery shows. You have police officers, and they solve the murders. What makes this show different and kind of a bit more of a hit in recent years, because this did air very recently. Last season aired in 2016. It is very, very, very pretty. It is going for akin to like the Scandinavian mystery series you get a lot of in books and movies. It doesn't have the cold like those do. This is much more akin to something like Wallander, which we covered maybe 100 episodes ago on this show, starring Kenneth Branagh, as opposed to something like Taggart. Taggart is very much urban crime procedural. It's going for that kind of law and order thing, while this one still has a similar thing where you don't get a lot of characterization. You kind of get who they are through how they do the case. This show, from the 3 episodes I've seen, really gives a lot of onus to the director to kind of establish so much tone and mood and characterization through editing and camera placement. It is one of those shows where it's like, humanity is sad, we do crimes because humanity is sad and everything is sad.
I mean, yes.
And it's just not my type of genre for mystery shows. The one that I've loved most recently was Jonathan Creek a few weeks ago. That was much more about the puzzle nature. This doesn't really have any big twist to it. It's just kind of doing the work, solving the clues, and learning that humanity can be bad enough to have people kill people. I really struggle with its length. 90 minutes an episode for a very just aesthetic heavy of here's a wide shot of nature, here's a wide shot of nature, here's a close-up of sad nature. Doesn't entirely get to me, but I do get why, if you're looking for a new show in this genre, this looks better and you get a look of Wales that I don't know very well, besides various things in Doctor Who, basically. So yeah, it's fine. It's 3 seasons. It's all on Netflix. I'll give it 3.2. It's fine. Alright, that's episode 170.
Woo!
Damn.
I'll watch 5 hours of TV and go it's fine.
Yeah!
I wonder how well we're pacing.
What do you mean?
Well, remember how we started this podcast? It's going to be a 20-year podcast. We do an episode a week, 50 weeks a year. Are we keeping up with that?
I feel like
we only skip a couple weeks a year, so I think we're doing okay.
Yeah, we had a hiatus for a month or so, a year or so ago. So
we're fine.
You're the math guy. You tell us how fucked we are.
Okay.
Actually, don't tell me. You tell Sarah.
So what's next week?
Well, we're not going to be here next week.
What's the week after next?
Oh, now it's a longer podcast.
Yep.
Yeah, we're taking a vacation break next week. Us most going to be out of town and just not logical to bring equipment. So we're going to have a week off. Woo! So we'll be back the following week for episode 171, where we'll be watching and listening to the 77th entries in all the lists.
The very new to the very old.
Yeah.
Damn.
So the movie is going to be the super entertaining King Kong.
Yay! I've never seen it. I'm
What
super
year?
excited.
1933.
Okay.
The original.
Like
King Kong.
All right.
Have you seen it?
No, I
You're
don't
gonna,
think I have.
you're gonna love this
I'm
movie.
stoked. The album is Chelsea Girl by Nico.
The song is Knoxville Girl by the Lupin Brothers.
That lines up nicely.
Right.
And the TV show is Dinner for One, which is a German one-episode comedy thing.
Cool.
So we'll learn all about those next time on the show. Until then, you can listen to all of our old episodes, find other things that you might be interested in of us covering various things. We've done some more vampire movies. We've done Dracula, at least, so go find our Dracula episode
Sure.
a long time ago with Christopher Lee in it.
We also did we do Nosferatu?
No,
we did not.
We saw Nosferatu together.
Got it.
Right.
Yes, but also you can follow us on Twitter at The Immortals Pod. As promised, last week I did post JC's cat watching Akira the Wrath of God.
Very important.
Or 2 weeks ago. Fuck. I recently tweeted it today.
Cool, that's
Whatever
fine.
this was. It's review wherever you listen to shows. People find our show, which really appreciate it. We really appreciate all the downloads people have. It always is overwhelming and kind. So thank you all for listening. We'll be back eventually. My name is Austin.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm Pedro.
JC also says goodbye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
See you in 2 weeks.
Bye.
Bye.